Hello, everyone. I am so happy to be back. Welcome to the Jen Carroll Show. This is the new instantiation of this podcast, from murder, mayhem, and everything else in my past to where we are today in a world facing a threat to democracy. Let's just face it. But I'm here to help us all get through it. I mean, that's what I'm going to have to do. So why not share the love, right? I am considered a micro influencer. So take that. That just means I have over 10,000 followers. And for each and every darn one of you, thank you so much for your support, because I really enjoy doing this. And I enjoy paying attention to the news and paying attention to things that might make your life better. I come to this with a very humanitarian, social justice, we got to take care of ourselves first. Always put the mask on yourself first, point of view. Also, if you're wondering where I slot in, if you maybe listen to the Daily Beans, and if you don't listen to the Daily Beans, you should. It's how I wake up in the morning. I just listen to them and discover what the day is what's going to happen in the day ahead, right? They come after the news. They give you the news with swearing. That's their tagline, which I happen to love. But I'm going to be the kind of podcast you'd listen to after you've heard the news and say, well, what the hell can I do about it? I do occasionally swear. I'm going to try to monitor that because I probably swear too much. And I also am going to try to be a little slower in my speaking because I get excited, and you'll pick up on that. I am one of those kind of, I guess, charismatic leaders is what you might call me if you were being kind. So that charisma can sometimes, as my daughter says, be a lot. So I'm going to try to manage that charisma. That's the best way I can think of how to frame it. I am very pro-democracy, and I am pro-individual responsibility. And I think we all have a role to play in our future here. And I'm excited about that because that means it's not something being done to us. And that's probably the scariest part of the idea of authoritarianism, is that people are going to hurt us. And I cannot roll well as a victim. I never have. Ask anybody that in the trial, I just couldn't be a victim. It's so weird. I kept changing it to survivor because I'm like, victims. Nobody in this room, none of these women are victims. None of these men are victims. These are all survivors. It's amazing. So I generally don't come at the world from a victim point of view. I generally come at it as like a, hey, I will be heard and you will take me seriously point of view if I have something to say. I'm going to organize content. I've been wanting to start this first show for so many days, but I keep trying to get my affairs in order with regard to this podcast. It's not going to happen. Sorry. We're going to be a little bit in development this month. I have somebody very special to me working on music that will be mine, so I don't have any digital rights management issues. I'm trying to get my website even to go harder than it does. I'm copying some smart people out there on good websites, except I'm doing everything myself. So this is definitely Jen Carroll production. Like, it's all me, from the interviews to the content to the research to the production to everything. So with that, I thank you for the grace you give me to come at you with what I can only say is a podcast out of a garage, except it's not a garage. It's a really filthy office that I need to clean. A ton of my mom's stuff is in here, and she recently died, so I got to deal with all that stuff too. But so you get the gist here. If you don't have big production values, that's because there's no budget. So I do my best, but I love feedback. In fact, I've always been given great feedback from my friends and the folks that listen. So please don't think that I will take it personally. And even if you need to tell me something difficult, it's okay. I can take it. I might stew over it, but then who does it? Anyway, generally, I'm organizing the content, and I'll typically try to come in with like kind of very what's happening stuff, like just what's news breaking, that kind of thing. And I have something for today about that. And that'll be at the top, and it'll be from my point of view. So there you go. It's through the Jen Carroll lens. My lens is it's broad, and does not just because I'm a broad, but it tends to look at the connections. I'm one of those people that can see the connections among things. It's been really good in my career. That ability to take different models and see the connections among them is, I think, a strength. So I hope that I can bring that to you. Then generally we'll always have a deeper dive into a topic. I may have one. I'm already talking to guests. The guests I've already talked to are amazing. And these will be regular people who are doing amazing things in their worlds. And when I mean amazing, I mean, if you're doing it for free, number one, if you're doing it for free and you're showing up and you're putting your best effort into it, that kind of work deserves attention. So if you're one of those people, let me know. I'm also going to bring in books, and I have the first book and I was waiting for that to be delivered too, because I got it from my independent bookstore, which means it took a little longer, but I found this most amazing book that I want to start with. So we're going to talk about that. And then I have something I call the Blue List. I looked at Blue List. Some people out there in the world use the Blue List, but I'm calling it the Blue List for us, for listeners of this podcast, as a list of the things, as things start to get rolling, that we need to be paying attention to for us personally in our personal lives. So I put out a Blue List, I started the Blue List. Let me see. What was this? This was in early November. I mean, let's face it. All of us November was not a good month if you were pro-Harris. It was a hard month. So I posted some things that were really in the infancy. And one of them was oh my God, dare I speak its name, the blue bracelet. Holy crap, did that turn into one kind of weird, wound revealing exercise. To me, the idea of it being wound revealing is I didn't understand the level of pain that Black women in particular were feeling. I should have. I just thought we were all suffering, right? But it's worse. I mean, I get it. It's worse or different. Maybe different's a better way to say it. So the blue bracelet became a nightmare. I'm going to take it off the Blue List. But that was just something somebody put out there in the world. But the Blue List, and the Blue List is not just up to me to do. You may not know this, but this podcast is different than most because I encourage participation. So as an extrovert, I kind of need people, and I can't hear you. I know that seems weird, but I can't hear you right now. I know you're there. Hopefully you're laughing or at least going, oh yeah, that's Jen. I really benefit from participation. And so I'm going to ask if you want to participate, we use Blue Sky. And I'm putting together a geezer's list of Blue Sky tips that I'll publish here shortly. Make sure I post that when it's up there. It'll be on my website too. But it's just a geezer's quick start to Blue Sky. For some reason, there's some tools on here that I think are new for some people. So I just want to actually, I say geezers because we always think we know what we're doing. We don't read directions, right? As soon as you're like, I don't know, what happens over 40 or something, you're like, nah, I got this. I know what I'm doing. Classic adult behavior. And I think that I know what I'm doing is kind of been a little hard on Blue Sky because some of the features are richer or better than we think. So I want to do that because I'm having a hard time getting my Gen Z daughter to get on Blue Sky. And I think it's because she thinks it's going to be like everything else. And I'm like, no. You can be as stealthy as you want to be. I believe I have finally got her to agree to come on the podcast when it's relevant. And I know she doesn't want to have a huge public brand. But I said, hey, but you can, if you had a Blue Sky, so if somebody really was interested in something you said and they could reach you, that would be fair. You can manage it through that. So it turns out a bunch of us are having a hard time getting our Gen Zs on Blue Sky. I don't know what the thing is. I don't know what the resistance is. But it's unfortunate because I actually would really like to hear a lot more youthful voices on the platform. But we're getting there. I mean, it's only, 24 million? That's not much. Sorry, I love saying crazy things. Anyway, so the Blue List is intended to be the things that you should be making sure you're doing. Like, I'll give you one example of what I put on there on November 7th. Go buy your big appliances, your cars, get your small construction done now before tariffs hit. Did not want to buy my daughter a new washer dryer for my mom's condo, but you know what? With Black Friday sales and everything, I'm like, bite the bullet. I'm just going to have to dig into my savings because I know the price is going to double. In just 3 months, the price will double. And then I'll just be mad because now I'm just giving the money to stupidity. So if you're one of those people and you don't do well when you have to spend money because you were lazy or stupid, or the person getting the money is stupid, that's what the Blue List is for, to keep you from having those challenges. I also had a big thing on the Blue List about anybody who lives with family members or has family members who are getting federal services. I'm not going to worry. The states will be a whole separate issue because the governors then really make a lot of those choices. And unfortunately, based on the United States map of never seems to give a shit about their constituents, the red states are going to take this one really hard. But you really should be looking at social programs. So that support your life and support the people you care about. that's what the blue list is meant to be. And I'll probably always end on the blue list and call out new things that people have suggested or reminded me about. So it'll eventually get broken down into categories. It's not even on my website as a page yet. I'm going to build a page for it. So at this point, you could just knock around the website if you want. If you put in blue list, it'll come up, and I'm going to get a page for it pretty quickly, but probably not today. So the blue list will be an important part of the pod as well. And that's just all of us looking out for each other. That's what that is. That's the whole point of the blue list. Oh my God, I just heard this. Make sure you go that. Like, what the fuck GOP? It's a poster on Blue Sky reminded everyone that if you are in a gay marriage, you need to go get all your documentation in place. Like, get it done. She had a bit more about that. And actually, she'd probably be a really good person to get on the podcast if I could get her on. She's a Bay Area woman. She would be great to come on and talk about being gay married and how to protect yourself, because I realize not all you guys are gay married, but if you are, or your people you love are, you're going to want to know about this stuff, because we just got to look out for each other. That's the ethos of what I'm going for here is we are not alone. We have each other's back. Collectively, we can keep track of a lot of stuff. We can know what's going on, and we also can bring up the stories early when we're seeing them break where we live. And those personal stories really matter. And so that's why I'm suggesting that this podcast is a participatory podcast, because the next thing I'm going to try to build, but I really could maybe use a partner. If there's somebody out there who knows how to build this, I'd like to set up a crowdsourced, actually, let me back up. What I'd like to do is set up a whole group of us as student council. If your eyes are rolling back in your head right now, like, what the hell, Jen? Remember I talked about like using models from other things and bringing over? I firmly believe one of the biggest parts missing from any civic involvement is agency. And I'm going to probably put up the Jen Carroll 10 commandments, because, 10 commandments are so hip right now. But one of the commandments I have is that you must have agency, and you must allow others to have agency. Your children, your grandparents. The fastest way you can become invisible and to not exist and to become depressed and to really feel like a victim and that you're stuck at the bottom of the abyss is to feel like you can't make a difference. We did that to our kids. Think about it. Well, actually, we did that to our kids. If you're over 50, we did this to our kids because all the programs got stripped out of schools. We don't let them walk to school anymore. We don't let them do anything. What the hell? I know there's risks out there, but so do they. And as they grow up, if we don't let them try, how are they going to learn? So my point is agency is so important. And what happened in the election, as far as I'm concerned, is a lot of people talked about a lot of stuff that makes them mad or needs to change, or this better get fixed. And if we don't look at that, you know what I'm talking about. And nobody took responsibility. Well, I believe the citizenry should take a lot more responsibility. And that's what was fun about student council. Now, I'm not talking about like in third grade. Student council in third grade was basically just figuring out that you had to go to a meeting and come back to report to the class. Although those were really good fundamental skills. If you remember, student council starts with representative government, and your student council representative whom you used to vote for back when we thought this kind of stuff was really cool in school. You'd vote for your representative based on their platform, which was, of course, more recess and free food. That was always the platform. And then add music, rock and roll, and other things as we got older. There was always the weed administration, right? Those who just decided we just all need to let the student body get high. That was definitely high school. But in student council at the beginning, we elected a representative. They went to the student council meeting, which is often after school or at a lunchtime. So it was on their time. They were showing that they were willing to put in the work, right? When you're doing something for free, that's a real commitment. Then they'd come back and report on what happened at the meeting. And then you'd give them feedback and off they went. It was very cool. Super, super basic civics. The thing is that every student in the classroom felt like they had a voice because they could actually talk to their representative. They could even go woo them at lunch, like bringing them a Snickers bar. I mean, come on. Politics is politics. And the student council member themselves felt responsibility and to both their classroom and to the meeting, to the student council. These are good things. This is when we used to own it. As we grew up, I grew up in Southern California. So if you wondered where this happened, it happened in public school in Southern California, in Ventura, to be specific, Santa Paula and Ventura. But then as we grew up, because I was in student government forever, because I think I was born for it. And you actually would like take on projects. We changed things at our school. We built things. We would fundraise to actually add the senior gift. Like there were things we did. We had agency. And that is vital. And I think the agency component is missing right now from almost all of our democratic process that's on the Dem side. I don't want another email and I want to sign another goddamn petition. I'll give you an example. Something happened yesterday. There's an article that was going around about cybersecurity being lowered as a priority in the government. And there is actually, and the thing that needs action is buried in this article, and it needs to be both lifted out of that article and turned into action. And then somebody is like, stay on top of it. I happen to care about cybersecurity, so I'm prepared to stay on top of it. But there's a good example of like, no, you can't just report on it. You have to give people a way to do something about it, or it's just happening to us, right? So my thought is that what I'd like to build ultimately is essentially a student council of all of you and anybody else who wants to play. And I believe for most of us, there's something we want to do to heal America that we're willing to get out of bed to do. Like, and I'll tell you what happened to me yesterday, because I got out of bed and I did it. But I believe a lot of us just don't use our agency because we have no idea how to make a difference. So I'm going to talk about that. But what I was thinking is that it would be really cool to have a crowdsourced place where people could see different groups of folks who are coming together. Then those discussions happen. Potentially there'd be a leader of the group and there'd be discussions happening, and they'd actually take a point of view and decide to go try to do something about it. And it could be anything. I mean, it doesn't have to, I'm not asking us to solve world peace here, because Lord knows God's not ready yet for whatever reason. But there's little things we can do. And I'll tell you what I did yesterday in that regard. So that's, if anybody knows how to help me build that on a website on WordPress, that would be awesome, because I want to set that up so that it persists as a place that starts to show that we are making a difference. Yes, I do. My reach does exceed my grasp all the time. I have big ideas, but it has to start somewhere, right? So get inspired, start thinking about it. If you know a web jockey who wants to throw in a little bit of spare time and just help me figure out this one part, I'd really appreciate it. And that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. So that I would like not only you to enjoy the pod and laugh with me when I'm silly. And I have one set of guests that are coming up that are going to slay. You're going to just laugh. But anyway, the idea is we laugh, we learn, we support each other, and hopefully I'm providing things that'll help you have a better life, help you build your resilience, because it's going to be hard to get up every day. Believe me, I know. And that we can move forward as like a cool team. I always call it squad. That's what I called it during the murder stuff. Like, yeah, we're the squad. Like, don't come with us. Got squad. And when you have squad behind you, you got more power, right? That's what we have here. So that's essentially what my goals are. And they're big and grand because that's how I live. And then I'll see what I can actually manifest. But to start today, because I've been waiting to talk to you. First, I wanted to let you know that Demcast USA, they're on Blue Sky. If you are not following them, you should. It's literally, sorry, let me just look at their handle. It is absolutely at DEMCAST, Demcast USA. That's the whole word, Demcast USA at Blue Sky, or, at BSKY, bsky.social. Man, those are long handles, but they're valuable. Those are ours forever. We get to keep those. That's really cool. They're like a thing it's an object you can put in other places. That's the extent of my coding experience. Thank you for coming. My point is, Demcast had a Zoom meeting the other day, and they were talking about the importance of, you got it, micro influencers. I have never been so happy to be micro. Anyway, it's those of us who are out here doing our best, but actually are kind of where the rubber meets the road, if that makes sense. I'm not hanging out at the White House, and no, I'm hanging out in Santa Cruz, by the way. That's where I'm hanging out. I'm not hanging out in any of the shishi places, and nobody's buying me dinner. No, this is definitely grassroots, but that's the point. So many of you talk to me. I love it because you too are like me. Like you're just a woman or a man who's seen some things. You're generally Gen X or Gen X adjacent. You may or may not have kids, but you're very much love America, love what we've had, and probably privately I can catch you dancing to Fleetwood Mac or something similar. Maybe it would be Earth, Wind, and Fire. That's my other go-to. Like if we go back, those are certain things that just make me dance. I can't help it. So that's the goal here. So if that sounds right, okay, you're in the right place. So this Demcast thing, what they're trying to do is promote small influencers, but also to give people ways to engage. So if you aren't following them, I recommend it. They're going to encourage us all to do things called, it's something the Republicans do very, very well. It's called a social storm. You can insert any sort of outrageous weather event after social. I like a social haboob because I just like the drama of the word haboob. Plus it says the word boob in it. But the idea is that when there's a piece of messaging, and one came out today, I haven't even had a chance to look at it. I've been going so fast. But when there is something that needs a lot of social media noise, because that is effective, if you can believe it, it even gets the attention of news media and stuff. Like sometimes we're going to have to just make noise. So think of it as us banging our mugs on the prison doors, much like Barney Fife and what was his name? Who do you always have to lock up because he was drunk? That's way before my time. But the idea is sometimes we need to make noise, and Demcast will tell you when and what the messaging is. So I encourage you to join. And that leads to my epiphany yesterday, or my life-changing thing that happened that I cannot believe. And so let me take a breath because here we go. I'm going to change gears here because it's going to get really personal really fast, and I'm going to do my best not to cry, but I'm going to tell you it's that powerful. And I can't give you all the details because some of them are extremely confidential. But yesterday I'm waking up and I'm listening to the Beans, and and I forget who was talking yesterday, but the story is about Pete Hegseth, right? Our favorite pederast, sexual assaulter, rapist, Pete, who's going to be Department of Defense. I guess not anymore. But yesterday, the stories, Jane Meyer had broken the story on Rachel the night before. And then yesterday, just more came out, right? Everybody was calling and saying, oh, let me tell you a story about Pete. As I lay there, I started to feel sick. And I realized that I'm responsible for the Pete Hegseths of the world. And let me tell you what I mean, that I have a personal responsibility in this. I, as a Silicon Valley woman who often ended up in the C-suite, not necessarily as an executive, I just ended up with them because I think it's because I had really strong communication skills, and that was never necessarily the strong suit. So I ended up at some amazing places and some amazing opportunities because of that. But at the same time, as I was rewarded for my good girlness, right? Because I was being a good girl. I was doing my duty. I was moving up. I was doing all the right things. I was also complicit in covering up so much debauchery, sexual assault, just vulgar things that happened at the companies that I worked for, that happens typically at a sales meeting. And as they were reading the descriptions of what women in particular would do, this typically does fall to the women. I was one of those women. Yeah, I made sure the CEO, the drunk CEO, got back to his hotel room. I was often responsible for looking out for men who behaved badly, knowing that I was supposed to give them the old gong show hook when it went too far. I have had women who have been sexually assaulted by my bosses end up in my hotel room crying as I tried to counsel them on what to do next, because I did hate what happened. But at the same time, it's a landmine. It's a minefield. Sorry, it's not a landmine. It's a minefield. Because once you're a woman assaulted at work, I feel like I don't even need to finish the sentence. You all know. You are instantly now screwed. You're screwed. Because if you speak up about it, you will be punished. I don't pretend that you won't. You will be punished. Socially, you will be punished in your job. You may lose your job, but you for sure will be punished socially. And it will be harsh and unforgiving, and you'll leave anyway. And then if you actually have scars because you were attacked or in any way harmed, there's nowhere to put that because there's just no space for it. You're supposed to just smile at your boss or smile at the man who did it the next day because it was just, all in good fun. It was work, right? Under the umbrella of work, and you all know this, debauchery happens. And as I lay in bed yesterday, feeling so morally, ethically responsible of my own role in this, and that's all I'm going to speak to is my role in this, of enabling it. For decades, I enabled it. It hit me so hard. And one of the other things I've enabled for 20 years is something that happened to my daughter in early childhood at an institution. I think I've got to leave it kind of general right now. Those of you with half a brain is going to be able to figure this out anyway. But my daughter was harmed at an institution in our area. And yesterday I said enough. And I can't believe I did this. I really can't believe I did this. But I went there and I asked to be put on the agenda for the upcoming board meeting. I was told that I could not be put on the agenda because only members of the institution could be on the agenda of the board meeting. I said, oh, that's fine. I'll just go to the press. That's interesting, by the way, when you offer that, and I'm fully willing to go to the press. Funny how all of a sudden you're taken seriously. Anyway, in what was a very uncomfortable discussion about getting on this agenda, we decided that what I would get is a call from the executive director. And it was there were many indignities that happened in this process, but I have to say I was ready for them. My whole goal was to go make an appointment to be heard. I didn't expect to be heard in that moment. It never works when you slam somebody upside the head when they're not expecting it, right? It just doesn't land the same. But I wanted an appointment to come back and basically hold people accountable. A lot of people, by the way. Magically, at the same time, a woman over 80 had heard me talking. And this encounter happened in like a large room with linoleum shelving and tile floor. So it was like it's amplified. It felt so loud. I was talking so softly and yet it was just so amplified because of all the echo factors. This sweet woman comes out of a very beautiful, magical area. It was actually a little shop. And she goes, after I was done, she goes, I think you need a hug. And I'm like, I do. And then she whispered on my ear, you're in the right place for social justice. And that's what's going to make me cry. Because she heard it. And I feel like in that moment, it was almost like a divine validation. I was in the right place for social justice. And that meant everything to me. I will tell you more about this after it's not in process because it's going on right now. The executive director sent an email to me last night that I can only rate as about the most appropriate email I've ever received in my whole life, especially regarding something that has sexual assault involved and has, ickiness and everything associated with it. The executive director knocked this email out of the park. Even my therapist was like, damn. I go, yeah, this should be like a model for how to answer somebody who shows up on your doorstep in distress. So there's a lot of steps I've got to take, but this could be a really big deal. And when I finally am able to tell the whole story, because I really don't want to impugn anybody's character and I don't want to be blamey and weird. So I'm going to get this thing baked down and I'll come back and share with you what happens when it happens. It's probably going to take about 30 days because as it turns out, the executive director broke his leg. And so he can't do anything. And I'm like, I've waited 20 years. I can wait another month or two. Like, please, this is not a hard thing for me. So that will play out. But what I want you to focus is on is I took responsibility for my role in allowing a situation to just fester for 20 years and potentially have other children at risk, and holds people accountable. And so the good news is today in therapy, I happen to have a good therapist and he lets me just drop in once in a while. And today we talked about like, what do I really want out of this? And it's so interesting. But one of the things I realized, one of the things that was said to me yesterday is they didn't believe that I even had an old relationship with this place. And I realized, oh my God, there's a reason why. Because when women do good, we don't get a plaque. Women are expected to do the good deed. But when men do good, they're benefactors and they get plaques on the wall that acknowledges what they've done. And one of the things that happened when I was there is that was I made a huge difference in that place. And they don't know that it was me. And they don't know it was, and then there's 2 other families in particular who were responsible for also some of this amazing thing that happened. And they aren't acknowledged either. We were just all forgotten. And that's another reason for social justice. It's not okay to forget people who do amazingly good things that serve the public good, that are from someone's gratitude and desire to pay it forward. So I'm going to ask you to look at your own role in advancing social justice. And I'm not saying that you're supposed to be like what I did. I'm a lunatic, and I've thought about this for a long time. It has been stuck in my craw forever, and I've basically been a coward. I've just been afraid. Because sometimes, as a single mom, a single woman, I've never married, sometimes the fights are bigger than me. Sorry, I don't know why I'm crying. But sometimes when you're a small person, it feels so big, right? But coming at this from a social justice, look, I have a role in righting this wrong. Even though the wrong was done to us, I still have a role in righting this wrong because it's really a big deal. And so I'm asking you to just take a look at that for yourself. The other thing I'm going to do for sure is one of the companies I worked for, both the CEO and the chief evangelist are known sexual predators. It is effing known. And I have been sitting on that. In particular, when I go back to a lot of my stories, they're the most recent version I have of what happened. And that version was really, really bad. So I'm going to send somehow a letter to the board members. I've got to make sure that this somehow is published. It gets recognized publicly because my big thing is I don't want people to bury it again. In fact, even when I went over to that place yesterday, they're like, well, let's just have a one-on-one with me. And I'm like, no more secrets. We're not doing this in the dark. That's how we got here. No more in the dark at all. This is going to happen in the light. So I'm not here to defame anyone. I'm not going to call them out in a way that is messy, right? Because my goal is social justice. My goal is you need to get your crap together. And you right now are employing 2 sexual predators. If you want to pretend like you didn't know, that's fine. But now you do know. Now you know. So now you can at least, I will know once the board knows that they're doing this and I've told them, then it really is on them. They have no excuses. And I will probably use social justice as my calling card, as the thing I'm looking for. The other thing my therapist was really good at today, because I had in my mind what I wanted. Like the other thing about this, you got to be kind of clear what will work for you. What is it you want out of this? And I'm pretty clear what I want, but what we ended up talking about, which was really good at the very end, is what I really want to know is a process where this would never happen again. And I want it documented. And I want to know that they're going to inculcate this into their operation so that this never happens again, right? So you need to figure out what works for you, but I want to tell you about it, and I'm going to share this with you as I go, because these are almost like little personal acts of courage, and they're hard. And you can see I could start crying easy because it's really hard. It's very vulnerable, but I don't want you to be too vulnerable. Like, your boundaries matter most. Then we go out from there. And this is what I care about in the podcast. I care that you are protected, that we're getting the best you for you. And then I'm going to push it, take risks, but never more than you can handle, because we all come at this with our own histories, our own triggers, our own trauma, our own everything. So it's got to work for you. But I'll tell you what, I feel like I lost 100 pounds overnight by just going there yesterday and getting on the agenda. And then get that email from the ED, which is the anomaly. It's rare that you get an email that's that as good as the one I got. But it can happen. At least it did yesterday. Like, holy cow. I think the other thing is not to have ridiculous expectations. If you have the expectations that work for yourself, that would probably be the best way to go about this. So I'll fill you in on that. But that's where I just said, I'm part of this. Pete Hegseth exists. Like, we all get mad at Merrick Garland, and we all get mad nobody's prosecuting anybody. But you know what's worse? The man that you had over to your cocktail party that you saw his hand on your neighbor's knee and you went, what is that about? It's not your job to be his parent and tell him about it, but it is your job to maybe go look and then look at the hand and then look at him. And I also am calling out every man, because the thing is, what I really got sick about yesterday is I realized so many of the men just, even if it's not their value, and I'll tell you, at one point I'm working for a CEO who's Mormon, and he would kind of use it as a weapon with us. Like, I can't do that because I'm Mormon, which is, I thought, really weird. But the thing is, he condoned the hell out of all the bad behavior. In fact, this big debauchery thing happened in Park City, Utah, just because irony is, everything. I might as well have been at a MAGA event, right? Irony is the key. But the point is, yeah, you got to, we are all complicit. And we need to figure out what we can do to start calling on each other to be better with each other and call each other out at that level without being a pain in the butt and not crossing a line. You got to find your line. This isn't about you being the mother of everyone or the father of everyone. Nobody needs another parent. But asking your friends to be decent and privately asking them to be decent, at least when they're around you, that's not unreal. And I wish more of the men would ask the other men to be decent, because we could stop a lot of this nonsense. If men would just decide, you're being a dick, knock it off, that would be so powerful. But maybe we'll get there. I know there's a lot of guys that are like this. My daughter's found one. He's amazing. So, I know you're out there. And I know speaking up is where you get shamed. So we're here for you, babe. I mean, we're all in this together. That's the goal. So personal responsibility, what is it? What can you do? How can you call for social justice? And how can we micro attack this? I mean, microdosing is the new everything, right? So we're going to microdose social justice. All right. That's the first big message of the first show. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the book I'm digging into. I haven't opened it yet. I actually have opened it, but I need to start reading it. But I'll go ahead and post it. It is called Predictable Irrationality. I mentioned this a little bit back a couple of weeks ago. The idea is that humans do irrational things in a predictable way. And as I skimmed through the book really quickly yesterday, but the thing about reading books is they don't have a lot of subheadings, and it's not like digital reading, so I'm going to have to actually slow down and read and not scan. But there's great examples in this book of how people do dumb things on purpose because it actually is easier for their brains than to do the harder thing that's better for them. And that, to me, is MAGA in a nutshell. But I thought it would really help us understand how to influence, possibly how to know each other better, is to understand how we make these weird choices. So it's called Predictive Irrationality. I'm encouraging you, if you want to read it, I'm encouraging you to go to an independent bookstore, because we're going to do that now. But if for some reason you have a busy life and screw it, it's more important to get the book than play by all the damn social rules that we have for each other, I will put my Amazon affiliate link to it on the podcast notes. And so, yes, that will be, I make $0 from any of this. I'm laughing because if you saw what the ad revenue looked like, I've never received a check of ad revenue because they won't pay you till it's over $34. I still don't have a check, guys, is what I'm saying. So there you go. The ads are weird. Whatever. I'm sorry. I do allow ads because I thought I really wanted to see if it would ever give me a check. There's never been a check. I don't have to worry about taxes ever with this thing. But the Amazon affiliate link might ka-ching. I don't know. I never had a lot of people ever use an Amazon affiliate link, but I guess they work. I'll have that on the podcast notes. Predictive Irrationality. And if you wonder where I got it from, that's the show, The Irrational. That's what I mentioned. It was based on this book. Now, the show I've decided is it's formulaic and does all those other things I hate. Although it is mostly Black characters and the sister slays. So I have to say that difference I really appreciate. It's so nice. It is so nice to see Black people be the smartest people in the room. I like that. I am dying for fresh ideas. I am dying for diversity of opinions and ideas. So anytime we start to shift from the norm, I'm happy. But it's an NBC show and it has commercials, and I hate commercials. But there you go. Peacock is what I'm saying. Peacock. So that's the book, Predictive Irrationality. And it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. And then finally, there's the blue list. And the blue list, as I mentioned, is just ways to get better. I don't have anything new because I wanted to do this podcast right now instead of go research some new blue list items. But I think gay marriage was one that I'm going to go learn more about. There's a number of things that are starting to bubble up that we need to tackle before Trump starts changing everything. Trump and the merry band of idiots. I don't know what to call them. I don't want to call them something negative because I don't want to keep putting negativity out there. So maybe they are the merry band of idiots. But what I have this fantasy that they all get in office and they're all, salivating, ready to do their Machiavellian, over what they're going to do, right? They're just salivating. Especially Stephen Miller, like the fangs are dropping down. It's all there. What I imagine, though, is that they all come in with their individual missions and they fucking knock the horses right from under each other because they shoot first and look later. And they didn't understand. Imagine that the people over at the city of Dodge, Vivek and Alon, who clearly don't understand how anything works in the real world, they just start shutting shit down, right? And then Kash Patel goes, but I needed that. But Kash Patel didn't know how that worked. So when Elon and Vivek took it away, they didn't know they were going to need the thing that they broke to help Kash be a murdering fool over on the FBI side. Like, they don't know how things work. So I suspect we're going to have some chaos. I hope we have chaos. I hope there's just sheer madness so that they cannot do all the damage that they want, that they actually end up being one of those horrible kind of comedies I hate because it's all physical humor and none of it has to do with intellectual humor. Yeah. What is that? The Three Stooges. Yeah, that's what that is. So I think that's where we might be headed. That's just my wish, my deep, deep wish for them. I wish so hard for them to have total chaos. I will be back. I don't know how often I'm going to record yet because, like I said, I'm still figuring things out. I'm going to go for at least twice a week, if not more. If the spirit moves me, I'm coming on. So I appreciate the follows. You could help me a ton if you share with friends that you think might like this. That would be great because the more followers I get, the more I'm going to be able to get better and better guests is frankly what it is. But I'm going to also lean in on this being a micro-influencer since we're chic right now. Don't be afraid. You got to get me all the way to 100,000 for me to no longer qualify as micro. So we've got a ways to go, folks. But if you don't mind sharing with friends, I would really appreciate it. And likes and all that stuff on the old podcast. And generally, I think I am going to just put audio only on YouTube if you're that kind of person. But mostly it'll just be a podcast. I don't want to be in front of the camera. That just limits me. So, and please talk with me on Blue Sky. I love hearing from you and it just really means a lot to me. So follow me, talk with me, and I will be back with the next episode next time. Thank you so much for joining me.